This morning, singer David is under arrest in Los Angeles in connection with the death of a 14-year-old girl. Authorities say 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez has been missing for months. Before her remains were discovered, they were found in the trunk of the Tesla SUV registered to the 21-year-old singer, whose full name is David Anthony Burke. The vehicle had apparently been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and taken to a tow lot where workers later made the gruesome discovery of Celeste's body. It was cut into pieces. David and Celeste had a history that was shared online. You're seeing some of it there. There's a Twitch that they did together, a live stream about a month before she was reported missing. David's arrest follows a lengthy investigation. This morning, he is being held without bail as prosecutors review potential charges. In a statement to CNN, his attorney said, quote, "Let us be clear, the actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. There has been no indictment returned by any grand jury in this case and no criminal complaint filed. David has only been detained under suspicion. We will vigorously defend David's innocence." The case has brought increased scrutiny to David's lyrics and music. However, in one video, an alter ego for the singer drags his own body into the trunk of a car. The video for the song Romantic Homicide, which was uploaded on the victim's birthday, contains violent imagery of a young dark-haired woman's body bloodied with knives. Joining me now, CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. All right, so back in September 2025, police found 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's dismembered body. We fast forward to, what, 7 months later? Is it unusual for this to take this long, first of all, for someone to be arrested and for him not to be charged? Right now, he's being held on suspicion, but there's no charges filed yet, right?
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. Good morning to you. Good to be with you. What ends up happening is no, it's not really that much of a distinction between how many cases are handled, and let me explain why. What happens is that you have a grand jury, and a grand jury has a number of functions. And just to be very clear, very briefly, grand jury consists of 23 members. Their goal is not to distinguish between guilt or innocence. Their goal is twofold. To establish, number one, is there reasonable cause to believe that a crime was committed? And number two, is this particular person the one who committed it? Now, the grand jury was doing what's called an investigation. And of those 23 people, in California, you need a supermajority. That's 14 to indict. Now, what do they do with respect to an investigation? Let's be clear about this. You never want to rush in and arrest someone if you don't have the information you need to do that. So the grand jury convened, and in them convening, they rounded up a number of people. Like who? Like his mom, like his dad, like his brother. You might ask why. Why? Because oftentimes when we're communicating regarding our activities, what we're doing, who we're doing it with, we do that with those who are closest to us. And so they're looking at any of those communications, what he may have said. They'll look at text messages and other types of communications. Like who else? Like associates he was with, like his business partners, etc. So you're going to get that information. In addition to that, Sarah, what they're going to evaluate is which they are. You saw the car there, right? The car in terms of the body in the back, the dismembered body in two different bags. Horrible to think about. Yeah. They'll pick over that in terms of the DNA and everything else. There's information. They'll triangulate in terms of where you were at any specific time. This will all be presented to the grand jury. His attorneys are right. There has not to this point been an indictment. There has not even been a criminal complaint filed, but you'd have reason to believe that if there was an arrest, certainly they're heading in that direction. Always innocent till proven guilty, but they have an abundance of information that they believe points to him as the person who may be responsible.
And because this is a murder case, obviously, you know, if it was something much lesser, you might not see necessarily an arrest, but in a murder case, it's pretty typical, I think. I do want to get to some of the lyrics of his songs. In this song, Romantic Homicide, he says, "In the back of my mind, I killed you and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true." Can something like that and some of the other videos that you saw there be used against him as evidence, whether it be in front of a grand jury or eventually if he's charged in a court?
You bet. I think what's going to happen, obviously, is his attorneys are going to move to preclude that, meaning, look, lyrics are not part of any particular criminality. They don't evidence an indication to commit crimes. It's going to be art. However, the prosecution is going to say, no way. The reality is that this goes straight to what he may have been thinking. When you have lyrics about "I've killed you in my mind," when you have, in looking at his videos, him being dragged into a trunk, they're going to say that this all really was created in his mind, and as a result of it, it provides critical evidence to be used in the trial. Grand jury, very briefly, the evidence that's used in the grand jury, very bare bones. It's when you get to the trial that they seek, that as prosecutors, to unload everything on you. And oftentimes we talk about this a lot, circumstantial evidence and direct evidence. Many people, when they commit crimes, don't do it in front of the world. They do it behind closed scenes, and circumstantial evidence, that's evidence which would be indicative. I came in here, right, and it wasn't raining at all. I look out the window when I leave here and there's puddles, it's still not raining. What can we conclude? It rained. So circumstantial evidence, this case looks like there's a lot of that. Doesn't mean he's guilty. It's the belief that all that evidence will lead to the indication that he may be, and that's why I think at least a criminal complaint or indictment, Sarah, may be imminent in this case.
All right, well, I think a lot of people are waiting and watching to see what happens in this case. Joey Jackson, I do appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Sarah, always.